Welcome to the Ultimate Landscape CEO. A quick introduction on this topic before we begin. This is about the changing winds in the economy. When I've talked about this on social media, there are many places out in the US that you're going full steam ahead. The economy is just pumping. And then there's other parts of the US where we're seeing pauses, hiccups, lead flow is down. And so this podcast is for those that are starting to see a slowdown and a hiccup. But there's great advice here, even if you're going full guns ahead. Trust me, a lot of great tactics here, regardless of what's happening in the economy. Here we go. Hello, this is Jeffrey Scott. Welcome to the Ultimate Landscape CEO podcast. Today, we're going to tackle a difficult issue of the changing economy, the changing winds, and what it means to you and your business. I've been speaking with clients on the phone, and the past week or two, I've seen a big change. Yes, we knew the economy was slowing down in parts all the way back to last fall. I have seen this in small parts of the economy. But recently, it's like, every other person I'm speaking to is seeing some kind of hiccup in their lead flow. And so here's 18 ideas, 18 ways, boom, to help you react and become proactive in dealing with the changing winds that seem to be happening right now in the economy. For those of you who don't get my newsletter, I send one out every week, Growth Tips. You can sign up for it at jeffreyscott.biz. That's my website. And for those of you not in a landscape peer group, we have the most kick-butt community of landscape business owners. I think it's 125, 130 members. We have a second in command peer group. We are doing a lot investing in helping landscape business owners of all sizes, really, to just stay one step ahead on a weekly basis, if you will. That's the type of interaction we have with our peer group members, plus all kinds of other fun and important benchmarking and accountability. But something to think about. If you're going it alone, there's no reason to go it alone. Okay, 18 ideas on how to pivot. Boom. We're going to break this up into two sections: sales, marketing, etc., and numbers, right? So sales and marketing, boom, let's start there. So I'm going to just throw out a variety of ideas for you. And these are all based on real conversations with my peer group members and my coaching clients. I do coach a handful, really a couple of handfuls of clients one-on-one with them and their teams. This is for companies that want faster pivoting and transformation of their company, and even where the owner wants help in becoming a better owner and a better leader of his or her business. So number one, stickier sales. I was speaking to Brandon today. We'll use their first names. This week I was speaking to him, and I thought his design fees were too low. He was charging around 1%, 1 to 2, but mostly 1. And I was urging him to charge more in his design fees so that he would have to do more selling up front. When the design fee is too low, the sale becomes easy, and you don't do enough explaining up front and selling and asking questions and attaching value. And it's easier for a client to really shop around and have two different designs going if your design fee is too low. So yes, the economy is a little tighter. Yes, I'd also advise people to be, not cavalier and be careful. But for those of you where the selling of design fees has been too easy, you've got yourself into a pickle where you've got to change your internal thought process in order to change your selling with your clients. So Stickier sales means more selling up front. Enhancements. I've been speaking to many clients about more enhancement sales. And anybody who's a client of mine has heard me talk about a weekly newsletter. I do a weekly newsletter. I used to do a monthly or every other month. And when I went to weekly, boom, everything changed for me. Same goes for you. I won't mention his name on this public podcast, but anybody who works with me knows that I brag about one specific client of mine who does a weekly newsletter. Excellent for selling, for putting ideas out there, one at a time, two at a time, three at a time. Very specific weekly newsletters to generate ongoing interest, to solve ongoing problems on their properties. Now, Craig, a client of mine whom I coach, uses a software that is very good at automations. And so he does a lot of specific emails targeted to clients based on the segmentation of what they use and don't use. So the first one was a generic newsletter. The second is segmented email marketing. A third way to drive enhancements is to walk properties. Two clients of mine, Rob and Nick, both have brand new account managers. And Nick asked me, well, we're going to onboard the new account manager. He's going to take care of our residential, but we have some commercial that we're going to have him look at just to understand the big picture. My advice was no, just have this person focused on their job, building relationships with his residential clients, making appointments to walk properties. We should do a whole podcast on account management. In fact, note to self, I will, but this is something that you can do right now. It's time to sell, right? You can't just wait for the phone to ring. You got to lean into it and make sales. So that's enhancements. Let's talk about lead size. I have seen that the lead sizes are changing, meaning you're used to getting small and big leads, but literally two different companies. One person said, oh, the big leads have fallen away. Uh-oh, we got to make hay with the small leads. Another person said, the small leads have dried up. I'm only getting the big leads. So you've got to pay attention to what's happening in your service mix. You've really got to keep your eye on the ball this year, this spring, and be ready to pivot. It takes active sales management, active tracking of your leads. And as a sales manager, your job is to be removing obstacles, right? Removing the obstacles of your salespeople, speeding up their sales process using technologies which are constantly coming into the marketplace, securing remote services to speed up sales, whether it's remote design or takeoffs or estimating. But keep track of how the lead mix is changing, how it's going to impact your service mix, and how you need to sell these clients. Because, for example, I was speaking to Rob, and we spoke about how he was trying to recruit a salesperson, turned away a recent sales prospect because the person didn't really have the ability to sell these bigger leads. But now that he's got an influx of smaller leads, maybe that salesperson whom he turned away would be a good fit for his company. So you've got to be really nimble in how you're using all your resources. Let's talk about marketing specifically. You've got to be a squeaky wheel with your marketing company. I was speaking with Adam, and he's hired on one of the marketing firms I recommend. I always recommend a small handful of proven winners, if you know what I mean, proven marketers who know how to market. And so I told Adam, be a squeaky wheel. Meet with them weekly to get what you need if you're not getting what you need. Tell them what you need if you're not getting what you need. Tell them the communication rhythm and type of communication you need if you're not getting what you need. I also recommend, and have been since last summer, time to start becoming a marketing expert and shop around your marketing. Not for a better price. Nope, it's not about price. But I want you to learn all the new types of marketing out there. And there are new types and new marketing that might be old marketing, but it's working newly. It might have been Facebook, but now it's Google Ads or vice versa. Sales Engine, which is one of the marketing firms I recommend, is very good at pivoting. They even use snail mail, direct mail, and it works now in the right marketplace because no one's doing it anymore. So what's old is new again. What's new could be newer again. You got to stay on top of it. And I was speaking with Blair, who's a coaching client of mine, awesome dude. And what I recommended to him, and I recommend to a few people, is come up with a new product to market to try to pull people in from different sources. With him, I had recommended marketing pools. Does he build pools? No. Does he want to build pools? Maybe. Does he need to build pools? No, he doesn't. But if he markets as a pool company, he's opened up his funnel. And he does a lot of pools. Who doesn't these days? So you got to get creative to bring new marketing to widen your marketing funnel, let's say, in your lead funnel. Shanna was talking with me about the excellent traction she's seeing in her networking groups, right? They take time. Some networking groups work, like BNI, and sometimes they work in some cities and they're dead in other cities. So don't go by what your peers in other cities are telling you. You got to try it out in your marketplace to see if it works. So these are some marketing and sales tactics that you can use. There's a lot of automation out there. Hello Groundwork that's their website URL. I think the company is Groundwork, and they have automations to help you work with video with your clients, especially your younger clients, although older clients work with video now as well. So check them out. It's either Hello Groundwork or Groundworks. I have clients using them to great effect. You might be a naysayer. You've got to test it out yourself to see if it works. And so we've just covered 6, 7 ideas there on sales and marketing. And now let's talk about managing by the numbers. And I'm going to give you 6 or 7 more ideas here. And so the first thing I've been telling my clients that are having a big drop off, surprise, our crews aren't working. You've got to be prepared to revise your budget, and you got to do it now, which means getting even tighter on some of your fixed costs and being very clear on how you're going to end the year in the black. I know that might sound like terrible, like, well, what happened? You might well catch up, and everybody I'm working with, like I said, has many tools and a huge community of landscapers to support them. But you got to have a plan B. What's the worst that could happen? You always want to know what's the worst and what do those numbers look like. And then you still charge ahead, but you do so with the plan B. And honestly, I like to have a plan B, C, and D on any given difficult situation. And it's not that hard to come up with these plans. This isn't an hour of brainstorming. I mean, really, when I'm doing coaching calls, we can come up with these different plans pretty quickly. And then we know what our backup plan is, and the backup plan is. You still charge forward with your strongest possibility, especially in the selling side, but you need to have a backup plan. And so I was speaking with Rob recently, who wanted to bring on a GM, but he's got some things going on there, and this wasn't a must do, right? There's urgent and important. And obviously you want to deal with the urgent and important. And then you want to deal with the urgent and somewhat important. And then you want to get to the just important, right? That's being most proactive. But sometimes you got to put the just important aside while you deal with the urgent and important. You do ultimately need to make it back into the important box that's not urgent because that's when you're really working on the business and being proactive. And so you want to get to that quadrant. But there's times when you need to pivot. So put some of those major plans that also would take a lot of major time to onboard on hold as you work your way through these changing winds that are happening right now. Now, if you have a good team, you can do both. Blair has a good team. He has a great leadership team in development. So he's able to work on the urgent and the important. You have to decide for yourself what kind of team you have and how you're able to parse your time. So job costing, another must do. Now, with the new softwares that are out there, it's become a lot easier to job cost. There's still a lot of companies, though, that don't do it correctly. They put it off. They look at the numbers themselves and they don't get estimating and production in the same room together, or sales and production. You've got to make it religious. You can't put it off to the end of the month. You got to make it part of your rhythm where you're always learning from your job cost, where all sides of that, all sides, sales, estimating, and production are learning, and it becomes part of your DNA. So there really shouldn't be any excuses. And even if you're using some other software where it's harder to job cost, it's easy enough to outsource this, to get outsourced help, overseas remote help in your office. So really, there should be no excuse for not job costing religiously. And more, I've been working with my clients to hire a controller. Nick knows this. He just hired a controller, did a great job. His business has been booming. That's 3 syllables. Booming. And yet he didn't really have a handle on his numbers. He was making great money. He's an awesome operator. I've helped him in many ways. And we finally got this controller piece in place. And she's going to be working hard to fine tune all of his job costing and help get all of his other systems in place. I work with many people who need a controller. I was just talking to Justin today. We just decided to pull the trigger on a controller. Now, in the old days, you'd wait till you were 10 million, 15 million before you thought about somebody like that. But more and more of my clients, I'm advising to do it earlier. Sean Baxter, who is an associate, a key associate here at Jeffrey Scott Consulting, he brought on a controller when he was at like 3.5 million. In spite of his wife, who worked in the business, being strong in numbers, he just knew, let's get the pieces in place. And in part, because of that, he's been able to really be an awesome asset at Jeffrey Scott Consulting, coaching, running peer groups, because he built the team. So how early is too early? Well, I was talking to Justin today, and he's got a pretty complex business. I think it's around 5 million. A lot of different services. He's got a real estate arm of the business that him and his partner run. It's, for a simple guy from Alabama, that's probably what he would say about himself. He's built himself a pretty complex business that it has a lot of legs, needs a controller. It's not in the budget. He's got overhead, needs a controller, is going to get that controller in place. The earlier you get these key people in place, the quicker you will be able to scale your business. Now, his leads haven't slowed down, but they might. But he needs it. You need it. Many of you need it. And if it's not a controller, then it's a full charge bookkeeper. And if it's not a full charge bookkeeper, then it's that office manager. But almost everybody I talk to is underpowered. And powering up doesn't mean, I'm going to go out and hire a controller or even a CFO. But it does mean building a smarter team that can take you to twice your size. You're at 1 million, better get a team in place to take you to 2, 3, 4 million, right? You're at 5 million, better get that team in place to take you to 10. And so that A, you can get there, and B, so you don't find yourself strangled with bad systems, data that's not timely. So back to the changing winds here. Get the right team in place so that you can get the right data and make use of that data. Let's talk about non-billable time. I was talking to Tim, another coaching client, about his numbers, and we were looking at his budget. I help my clients put together what I call a rolling budget. That's my term, and it rolls, but not the way that some of you might think about a rolling budget. But it's been a very good teaching tool in our peer group community. And we were looking at his rolling budget, and his revenue was dropping. And he said, well, the good news is other expenses are dropping. But as we peaked in, we saw that his labor was dropping, but not as quick as it should have been. It should have been dropping twice as quick as a variable expense. So you've got to micromanage your labor, both in the job costing labor tracking, but also in the non-billable category. You can do this through your software. Mitch, who's my director of operations, suggested to Tim to set it up as a separate job and a separate job each month that you can really look at each month and help you micromanage your non-billable. Ivan Katz, there, I've just said his full name because he's going to be proud for me to mention his name. He's a Mighty Oak winner. We hand out Mighty Oak awards every year for the companies that just kick butt and take names personally, professionally, business-wise, profit-wise, for all four categories. And we'll be honoring him at the upcoming Summer Growth Summit along with our other Mighty Oak winners. In any event, I've mentioned his name. Great guy. And we talked about how to woman handle, kind of wrestle down the non-billable hours. And I suggested to him to create a 28-day challenge. They say it takes 28 days to build a habit. And just like all the hype we're seeing with the 70-day challenge, all these health challenges, my recommendation was a 28-day challenge. Get your entire production team together and talk about the bad habits that we're doing now that cause this non-billable. It might be management's fault. It might be the crew leader's fault. It might be just bad habits that are culturally there. But putting a goal in front of people, and what does it mean to get out of the yard early and reduce non-billable time, and then put some rewards for everyone if we can make it happen as a team. And I gave him some other tips on how to do it. But bringing the whole company, involving them, if you could only focus on one challenge a month with your team, what would you focus on? Over 12 months or 10 months or 7 months, you could do quite a bit by building a new habit, one habit at a time. So getting a habit on getting a handle on non-billable time, absolutely, positively crucial. Billable time, your revenue might be down, but maybe it's not. Like I was talking to Jo Lynn, and her revenue's not down, but it is a crazy year. We do need to get a handle on numbers. And, she did come to me wanting to improve profitability. So we have been working on that, and things have been working. We kind of set up a whole new mix of work for her to bid on. A chunk of her business is bid build. And so billable and non-billable is very, very important. And so her crews came to her asking for a raise or getting money somewhere else. And so, yes, we can give that raise, but how do we increase billable time? And so part of it is working on the non-billable, like I said, and part of it is getting the crew to work that extra day or the extra full day. Hey, when there's a Saturday to work, I need you to work it and not just come in for a half day, but work a full day, or stay an extra hour every day to work through the backlog we have. There are definite ways that you can increase billable hours, because ultimately hitting your budget is based on hitting your billable hours budget. Yes, there's a lot of other factors that go into it, but that's the most important factor. And to do that, you've got to break it down into weekly segments. And then if it rains a lot and you miss one week, all right, then you got to make it up in the next week or two to hit the monthly segment. But managing it by the week, absolutely positively important. Managing the number of billable hours, and then managing the throughput, the profit that you attach to those billable hours, absolutely critical. And I've touched on throughput before. Go back and listen to one of my podcasts from about a year and a half ago. There's a good whole podcast on throughput. Listen to that, and you'll understand how to adapt that and implement that in your business. Very important. Lastly, let's talk about profitability and profit sharing. Matt, whom I'm coaching from Colorado, we talked about profitability. We talked about commissions. Last year, he paid commissions, but the company didn't do well. And he realized, oh, the salespeople can win and I can still lose. Well, that's not good. That's never good. And so we're making some shifts to how we pay commissions. We're introducing profit sharing also into the sales team's incentive plan. And we're going to develop profit sharing to make it stick. He's very excited. I'm very excited. His leadership team is very excited to put their arms around profit sharing. The key is to make it, well, there's two keys. One is you got to make it sticky. You got to educate. Monthly at a minimum. Drost educates twice a month. You got to really explain it, make it real, whether there's good news or bad news, show everyone what their number or two or three numbers are that they can track and push to drive the profitability. Then, of course, you have to make sure you've got the cash flow to pay for the profit sharing, which is a whole other issue. You've got to deal with depreciation and your truck payments. And just because you're making money doesn't mean the cash is in the bank. And so you've got to set high enough minimum standards and timing issues to when you pay out the profit sharing. And so you got to make sure it's win-win. Do not rush into profit sharing. Better to go slow, figure these factors out. If you're a client of mine, I've done two private webinars for you. If you're a client of mine, go back and watch those private webinars. So it's been a tricky spring for many of you, maybe half of you, maybe a third of you. Every segment, every geographical area is a little different. Commercial's different from residential. I have a client, Adam, he's in the Northeast, mostly commercial, and he is just killing it. But things are going to get tighter. Things are changing. And so I want you to be a little bit, a little cynical this year. Not negative at all. Got to be positive. But I want you to, trust but verify. Get the numbers. Keep your fingers on the pulse, right? Got to do what Ronald Reagan said. Trust but verify. And when you lead, you have to lead with optimism. You can't lead with negativity. And so when you're leading your leadership team, they want to know that you've got a plan B, even a plan C. They want to know that you've got your pivots in place. So when you're meeting with the leadership team and your sales team and your production team, that they're confident in your confidence and in your plans. So you may be feeling a little bit lack of confidence or uncertain, but the key is, here's the data. We're using data. Here's the plans. Here's what I want you guys, gals, to go out and do. And so, of course, you need to have conversations to have buy-in. Someone on your team is going to have doubt. You want to bring that up and work it through. That's actually a great spot. Somebody in your team needs to ask those tough questions, right? But I want you to leave your team feeling settled that they have a go-forward plan, even if it's just for the week or just a month, but they have a go-forward plan to deal with these ups and downs. I was talking to Tim. I mentioned him earlier. one of his salespeople feels a lot of pressure. He's like, wow, my job is to keep these couple crews busy. And that's a lot of pressure for that salesperson, non-owner, to feel. And so I was telling Tim, take that responsibility on yourself. First and foremost, hey, I'm responsible for getting the marketing for this, for that. Make it a we feeling. We're in this together. We've got each other's backs. Got to do what you need to do so that some of your team doesn't feel overstressed by taking too much responsibility, right? You're in it to win it as a team, and that's the best way to win. So I hope that these 18 plus or minus ideas have given you some pivot ideas on how to move forward. When I post this on my LinkedIn channel, would love to hear some ideas from you, comments back, other ways that you're pivoting to make this Q1, although we're in Q2, aren't we? This Q1, Q2, maybe we need to have just instead of quarters, just triads. That might kind of make more sense for our industry, actually, right? January through April. So, whatever. I digress. Let's focus on having a recovering if we need to from Q1. And for those of you that rely on snow, I know there's some of you are having to recover there, and to have a strong Q2, have a revised budget in mind for the whole year, but try to make up the year. Keep your team motivated. Focus on the wins. If you're in a company that's having issues, focus on the wins. Keep people positive. Keep them pumped up. And that's going to be your best shot of having a great year this year. And if you're thinking about profit sharing, and if you're close, you may not want to roll it out to the whole company if you don't have it figured out, but to your inner circle, you can share the numbers with them and get them on board and show them what's in it for them. I don't want to advise, firing first and then aiming second, but if you got a close inner circle and you need to pivot, let them know what's in it for them. They'll probably just want to do it anyways based on if it's a good team. But if you can put a bit of a carrot out there, that's going to help. That's going to help, or at least make it sweeter, right? Let me say it that way. Wishing you a lot of luck this year. Let me know how I can help. Put your comments when I post this on LinkedIn. And with that, make it a great spring and summer.